I don't see you.
Yo.
Oh, there. I hear you.
Yep, they can hear us. We're live on the stream. Here we go. We need like music on this now. This is pretty pretty boring.
Yeah, we need some intro music. We don't have any intro music.
I have to. This is all new to me, man.
So,
Live
pro
streaming at
tip:
40.
make sure you mute the live stream when you're on the live stream. As I hear ourselves talking on the 10-second delay.
Oh, live streaming. It's
What's
like
up,
this is.
everybody? Let's kick
Yeah.
this off officially. It's WordPress Friday Hangout, WP Friday. Hashtag Victor and myself. We are back. It's been a little while. We went off air at the end of last year, take a little break, figure things out as Twitter was making some changes. And guess what? We're no longer on Twitter because if you're watching us, clearly we're over on YouTube and you get to see our beautiful faces. So now, and Victor's cute little doggy. So now we actually have to look presentable, Victor, which is a whole nother
I forgot.
challenge.
I woke up this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I actually have to like bathe and stuff for the 10 a.m. thing.
I shaved
Yeah.
my head about 20 minutes before we went live here because I was looking like a caveman. But we're back. I'm excited about this new format because it's really going to allow us to take this show to the next level. And I think it's worth kind of digging into some thoughts, some ideas we have. And of course, as Victor and I, if you've listened to WordPress Friday Hangout, we like to experiment. We like to try different things. We like to have fun. We're not super polished, are we? I don't think we are.
I don't think so. Not polished.
Picking it up, are we? Because now we're using Streamlabs, we're pushing to YouTube, so we can do a lot of fun stuff. So we plan to continue having our show every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Certainly subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. Is that what we're supposed to say? That's what Matt Madero says. Smash that subscribe button. Set those reminders. That way you get alerted when we do go live. But our general time will be 10 a.m. Eastern on Fridays. And we're going to mix it up a little bit, right, Victor? We've had in the past, we've had kind of an open format. Anyone can join and talk about whatever interesting topics are going on in WordPress and technology and the web. And we still plan to continue to do that, but we also want to have an opportunity to bring on guests. Have more of a set topics and dialogue about certain topics that catch our eye or they're kind of trending, and get a little bit deeper into the conversation, right, Victor?
Yeah, and I think, Twitter Spaces is great, but, based on other things, it's not being maintained. And YouTube is being maintained, and there's a lot of opportunity for us to now, instead of just saying, hey guys, here's that link. Hey guys, here's that thing. We can actually have real time interaction, real time chat,
We show
real
you
time
that thing.
video. Yeah, we could show you that thing. We can poke it around and then you know exactly what we're talking about. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to say kind of, I don't want to overpromise, but the sky's the limit with what we can do. That's what I was saying to Brad, when we were planning this thing. I said, it's really exciting for me because, or even for other people, I think it's exciting for like some of my friends who sometimes say, hey man, I'd love to know how you work and how do you, because I have people all the time. They say, hey, how do you work with Brad Williams? How do you work with these big agencies? How do you learn? And I was
How
like,
do you deal with Brad? That's what they
no,
want to know,
no,
right?
because like, listen, I know, and I know you don't see yourself this way, but even when I listen, when I joined the Wall Street Journal and I reached out to Brad, and some people know this story, and I always bring it up, I was just a student of his through his book, and so I said, hey, to my manager, WordPress is a small community. The guy who wrote this book, I like his stuff. I like the way he thinks. I'm going to reach out. And then I slid into his DMs, and the rest is history. But I think
And now
having
look at us.
access,
Now
yeah,
look at us. Now we're
but
friends. We go to
having,
concerts. We host podcasts.
yeah,
We do all sorts of fun stuff.
but I think having access to people, I don't want to, I think with remote, it's harder now, and I like
Mhm.
remote, but it's harder to like build a network, et cetera. And so I hope that this is like where we can get, an opportunity for people to ask us questions, share their stuff. I'd love that, and that's what I think this is going to be better for that.
Yeah, I love the idea of being able to screen share, talk about things, and even when we get other people on the show, that like you said, we'll talk about go to check out the handbook on WordPress.org, or let's look at what this team's doing, or look at this plugin or this new, cool service or site that's out there. And all we could really do is talk about it and share some links on Twitter. But now, like you said, sky's the limit. We can screen share, we can bring on different people, we can have different views and layouts. I mean, it's really going to be a lot of fun, I think, just as we figure this out. So I kind of expect every show that might be a little bit of a new something new going on, maybe a new layout filter or something, as we kind of experiment and go along. But it
We could
definitely,
even do a man on the street. I got the,
yeah,
and that's not that
we
everyone may
are
know
going to
this.
do a man on the
Yeah,
street because I am
yeah.
going to WordCamp Phoenix in about a month and a half. And it starts on a Friday. Hey, good timing, right? Now we might have to push that show back a little bit because 10 a.m. Eastern, I'd be trying to interview people till 7 a.m. at a WordCamp. Probably not going to get a lot of takers.
Yep.
So we might have to go a little bit later just so I can get, talk to some people in a little bit more real time. But I mean, again, like you said, we can be out there on the streets. We can be at WordCamps, we can be at other events. We can grab people, interview them real time, pop on the show. We can make clips. So it's really, it's leveling us up, right? And certainly with the uncertainty of Twitter in recent months, we felt like let's jump over to a platform that is a little bit more stable and obviously gives us a lot more features and functionality for the show. So WordPress Friday Hangout, back. We're on hashtag WP Friday on all the socials. As always, if there's an interesting topic, something you want us to dig into, tweet at us, drop the hashtag. We'll check it out and potentially talk about on the show. Come in the chat room. We got an active chat room in here, so you can come in and hang out. You don't have to hop on the live stream. You can just come hang out in the chat room. But we're looking forward to getting this back and being, as with everything in podcasting and online streaming, consistency is key. So we'll do our best to keep this consistent. If Victor or I are out, maybe we'll have a special co-host join us, right? So we can keep the show going every week.
And I'm excited for that because we have, people that, and again, I think when we were going to a list of, hey, we want to have, people on, we know people, and it's exciting to have, we know people and having, exciting, cool people join us. I know a guy.
Actually, very, very topical because I just started rewatching Sopranos last night.
Classic.
It was like a lot of gabagools and stuff.
And I will say, you forget how the 90s was, because the 90s, it was different things. Like there were no, and I'm not going to be that person, but no phones. I love watching The Wire. It's almost call it classic HBO, that period of Sopranos, The Wire, Oz.
One of the greatest shows ever created,
And even now, The Wire, those shows get studied in film school, but also in business school, how do you avoid corruption? And they show the Tony Soprano scenes and stuff. It's it's so interesting.
Well, that's the thing about shows and movies in general is just technology is generally the number one thing that will immediately kind of remind you what era you're watching and when the show was created, right? It's technology. They pick up that massive cordless phone or they get on their big blocky, computer dialing into AOL or something in the middle of the show. And other than that, and other than maybe older looking cars, sometimes it's not as obvious, but as soon as that technology hits the screen, you can really gauge when that show is made based on what you're seeing.
Do you remember when they were first trying to figure out how to bring texting into shows? Because they wouldn't. No. So it was actually, because I remember this because it was horrible. And then there was I like, reading about media and stuff. And it was House of Cards finally solves texting in movies and in shows. And House of Cards is the first one where you'd see the little bubbles as they're walking up the stairs and they're texting. I
do remember that because the text bubble would pop up on the screen, almost like pop-up video back in the day. And it was you could follow the conversation. You're right.
Because that was never before. You would never have someone typing on a computer screen and then have you wouldn't see it on a bubble,
That reminds me of, I think it was Kelly Rollins from Destiny's Child, and she had a video. I don't even know how this nugget is in my brain, but she had a video where she's texting, and breaking up with a boyfriend, and she's literally typing into an Excel spreadsheet on her phone.
Oh my God.
And that's how so when you said that, that's what I immediately thought of, how they're kind of pass off texting. And it was really just her typing into a spreadsheet. You can easily see it on her, Sidekick flip phone or whatever it was. But anyway, let's get into
stuff. We got a chat, and someone said that we have a 1 minute delay on our chat, which for users, I thought we had 5 minutes on ours, but to go out to the public,
there's some kind of slow mode on. Jeff, we'll figure that out. We don't need slow mode on. I don't think we're that popular. We have Jeff in our chat room with slow mode.
He's only allowed one message. That's crazy.
It's one per minute. I think the idea is if you have a really active chat room, it's impossible to read if you don't have something like that on. But when you have one person in your chat room, probably not necessary.
YouTube.
We'll get that taken off. You do have to subscribe if you want to chat in the room. We are requiring that just to try to keep any kind of spammers or anybody out. But once you're subscribed, you should be good to go. You can chat all you want. So we'll get that slow mode turned off here shortly.
So the channel owner, it looks like it can only be turned on for the forum. It's funny. I guess there's no way to get rid of it. What?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't feel like real time debugging on the show.
Yeah, sorry. I'm that crazy person who tries to fix things. Never mind.
Well, let's get into a few topics. The one that
Oh no,
definitely
he's
caught my
here.
eye.
He's here. It's off now. All right.
You fixed it?
Yep, I think.
Oh, look at
Sorry.
that. Real time
Real
debugging.
time.
Jeff, let us know if it's good. All right, Jeff spamming our chat. We're good. Everything's right in the world. So let's talk about the big WordCamp that's out there right now. WordCamp Asia is happening. In fact, I believe earlier today in the U.S., which was already done over in Asia, was the Contributor Day, which, from what I can tell, looked like it was a pretty successful day. That's always an important date for any WordCamp, and I know a lot of people really look forward to that. It gives everyone an opportunity to spend the day contributing to WordPress, and it's a really good opportunity if you've never contributed, because you were literally in a room with hundreds, most likely hundreds of people who have, and all they want to do is help you contribute. So it's an awesome day to kind of get there, sit down with someone who's done it, sit down with a group who have done it, and really they can kind of coach you along the way and get you excited about contributing to WordPress. And I always like to point out, whenever I talk about contributing to WordPress, it is not just code. I think a lot of people make that assumption. To contribute to WordPress, you have to write code. You have to work on the WordPress core software, and that's not true. There's training teams. There's all sorts of. There's localization teams. There's all sorts of teams and how you can get involved. There's support teams. There's transcription teams that help with transcribing videos. So a lot of different ways you can get involved. And again, contributor days are great because if you don't know how or where, you go there and start talking to people, see what you're interested in.
And by the way, my dog's howling, so I gotta grab him. I'll also add
I thought
that.
that was a siren, like a
Yeah,
police
I know.
siren.
Yeah, it's a 7-pound demon, and so I think he's gotten used to when I'm on phone calls. He sometimes knows he can get on the camera, and he just likes the attention. But it's that kind of time. I will say about contributing also for anyone. When you go to the events, it is fun, it's social, and you're going there to meet people and network, etc., right? And a lot of people, after the contributor days, usually the last day or the first day, and a lot of people, they end up either, I'll fly in late or I'll fly out early, and it's like, it's one of the few times, especially with remote work, travel, everyone being all over the place, that you are going to get the opportunity to collaborate. And so I think it's more important than ever. And you're going to solve. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about remote. I do not believe in being in person for basic things such as like let's talk, like schedule a call. But in this real hands-on with coding, they can say like, hey, this is why your computer's not set up properly. Let's debug this, let's debug that, let's get your system set up.
Yep.
And so it's an opportunity to have like someone like myself or Brad or a major contributor to core WordPress, and they're going to say, hey, I'm going to get your laptop or get your coding environment, and that's something if you're learning to code. And again, you don't have to contribute with just code. As a marketer, they're like, hey, let me help you download Figma and get the design files. Let me help you do that. And having someone kind of sit with you and do that for like an hour, that is like worth 1,000 hours when you go home. So I really do recommend people just even get your environment configured at a contributor day.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I saw one of the WordPress core committers, John. I hate John. I'm sorry, I always butcher your name. John D.
Okay.
He's over at WordCamp Asia. He actually wrote a good blog post, and I'll tweet out on the WP Friday hashtag. That is basically essentially a checklist of things to try to set up prior to getting to a contributor day, for that exact reason, right? You don't want to go there and say, okay, how do I set up Composer, or how do I, how do I work with Git? Like, there's a few things that you could do to kind of help you get a head start, and that way, when you get there, you can really start focused on contributing.
Right.
That is from the code perspective, of course, which John is obviously focused on as a core committer. But it's a good checklist. I'll make sure to tweet that out later today, or retweet him, because he sent that out to WordCamp Asia. But yeah, it looks like a great event. I know they have, I believe, 2 more days. It's kind of cool to see that this is the inaugural WordCamp Asia, and if anyone remembers, they had it scheduled last year but had to cancel because of a influx of COVID and safety precautions. So this is really the first one. But by and large, it seems like it's gone very well. And getting a little bit of FOMO watching it online, which usually means it's a pretty good event if you're kind of wishing you were there. So that'd be a fun one to get to someday. I've never actually been to Asia. I would love to visit.
Yeah, we got some cool photos here. Everyone hanging out, like Laura Byrne. Like, it's really look at this. It's the first one in Asia. Look at the size of that room, by the way. That's what I wanted to bring up on the screen. Look at that. That is like that is nerve wracking to speak at, by the way. Like I couldn't imagine. So that's such a cool opportunity.
Uh,
That's neat.
yeah,
Love
and
it.
we'll have Laura on. Laura's generally she likes to pop on to WordPress Friday. So when she's back, we'll definitely have to have her on and get kind of a real, real review from a attendee and speaker and all that good stuff. So looks like a
Jeff in
great
here
event.
said,
Excited to see that. Excited to see some events back, and I think these flagship events are, WordCamp Asia, WordCamp US last year, coming up again later this year. WordCamp Europe coming up this summer. I just feel like these flagship events can really help. Almost give us. It almost feels like it's giving us permission to get the local chapters back and running, right? And we can use these larger events and their lessons learned as guides because they're doing it at a larger scale, right? I think WordCamp Asia was expecting about 1,600 people. Local WordCamps generally got to be anywhere from 100 to maybe 300 or 400 for a bigger city. So you're talking a quarter or less the size. We can learn from them, right? We can learn on what worked, what didn't work, in terms of, masking or just keeping people safe and everything. So I'm happy to see these back. I'm glad it was, seemed like it's gone well. We'll get the full recap once it's all done. But it's exciting because WordCamps are coming back. I mentioned WordCamp Phoenix is coming back the end of next month, end of March, which I'll be at. So it's nice to see WordPressers back together again, I guess. It's exciting.
yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's I'm excited for also WordCamp Europe this year is going to be in Athens.
Yeah.
I bought a ticket just to go to that because I love Greece.
I want to
So
go. I want to go. I don't think
uh,
it's going to work out, unfortunately. It's actually on my birthday, so make sure you celebrate me while you're there.
I will. I will. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
it's over my birthday, but I
I'll
don't
get
think
a
it's going to
piece of
work out. But
souvlaki and put a candle in it for you.
I'm jealous, man. I would go just for the food,
I will
just for the
say,
food.
in my opinion, and if there's any, if any Italian watches this later, I apologize. Um, I like the food in Greece better than Italy, and the food quality is, but even the food in Greece is so wonderful.
Mm.
And I had for the first time like rooster. I didn't even know you could do that. Like, and all different
You
parts of
ate
the
rooster?
countryside.
Mm.
Yeah, it was rooster. Like, well, yeah, on it was like a pasta with like rooster. Like they eat all this different types of like tons of goat cheese. Everything's so fresh, and they won't even. And what I like about the Greeks too here in the United States, you go and get, hey, I want a tomato on it. They'll serve you a tomato, but it's mealy. It's been sitting in a warehouse for a month. We do, whereas in Greece, if it's out of season, you're not getting it. They'll say, hey, no, like, and it's really just fresh, great food. And also, the craziest thing about Greece, and I'm sure for the Athenians, it seems very boring. As a New Yorker, I think Times Square is boring. Like people are like, oh wow, Times Square. But you can see the one World Trade Center from the entire city now because it's like sits there, right? In Athens, the Acropolis is literally in the center of their city. So no matter where you're going, at the top of the mountain is the Acropolis as you go around Athens. So it's just this mega, like this piece
Hmm.
of 2,000-year-old history, 3,000-year-old history just sitting and you're staring at it. And for me, I'm like, wow, I'm literally living in history. And I'm sure for Athenians, they're like, okay, yeah, that's just like sitting there. But it's really majestic. I love Athens.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to that part of the world, but it's definitely on a bucket list. Someday I'll get over there. Italy, that whole area. I haven't visited, so love
I
to
mean, you were just in
travel.
Scotland. I'm jealous of that. I've not done that.
Yeah,
That was
Scotland's great
cool.
because my sister lives there, so it's a good excuse. So we're usually there at least once a year, which is great. And
Oh, just
she's,
going to Scotland once a year, doing
just going
doing
to
some
Scotland.
people's dream once a year.
I know, I know. You know how it is. Like travel's always way more. Travel's just more. Well, it's easier when you have a place to stay. Honestly, that's the biggest cost usually is is the lodging, right? So if you're going to stay with family or friends, like the airfare is yes, it's expensive, but not compared to a hotel room or something for two
That's what
weeks.
I'm doing. So in Athens, I'm getting a 2 bedroom for a month, and I'm just telling any of my friends, hey, let me know. I'll
Hmm.
put you on the calendar. You can come stay in the room
It's
because
awesome.
because by getting one, I'm remote and I'm trying to do more slow travel. I'm terrified of going and traveling somewhere. And I will say that about WordCamp Asia, we still are in COVID, right? And so it is scary that
Yep.
maybe like you get there, you get sick, and then you can't go. So
Yeah.
that's why I want to go to Athens for a month. if for some reason I were to get sick, or there was a strike or whatever, a balloon lands in my in the area, and things shut down, I still can enjoy Athens for another 3 weeks, and only 1 week
Mm-hmm.
goes away. But yeah, you're right. The lodging, my friend, when I looked at renting a hotel, it was $400 a night, but I'm renting a furnished apartment, not through Airbnb, through like a service, for 2,000 for the month. If it was a hotel, that'd be 16, or like I don't know, 300 times the $9,000.
Yeah.
So it's a lot cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm a big fan of renting Airbnb or something. I know you got to be a little cautious with those places these days because
Yep.
there's a lot of places kind of abusing the cleaning charges and all those extra add-ons. But I think if you're careful and you kind of look at that up front, there's still good places to rent that aren't doing that.
Oh yeah.
So you just got to do your due diligence and look into it because they're
And that's
just like
the
anything else,
last,
right?
yeah, the last time I was there, I met a guy. He had an Airbnb, and he actually owns like an corporate apartment service. Like they only list on Airbnb. So it's and so they're corporate rentals. They only rent to professionals. Like you can't have parties. Like it's very like it's stuffy, but it is. I want to know when I travel, there's
Right.
not going to be people whooping it up upstairs. I like to sleep.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So very cool. What else is going on out there? We got WordPress 6.2 on its way. Beta 2
I
is
actually want to
out
share
now.
something, and I want to share with you, Brad. Did you know that we did some? Well, we're gonna I guess push it back. We did some work with WD underscores. I just launched a new site for my brother,
Oh, cool.
and I forgot, so I got to share it with you. No designer, no page builder, just vibes.
Just vibes.
Literally, we did this with no designer, no page builders. It is the core blocks put into a set of patterns that we copied from Twent we did not build the site. All we did was set it up, and we limited the patterns they were allowed. It does auto padding, etc. And so my brother and his partner, they laid out the whole site. We did not build a single page for them. We gave them like a full, faceted WP resource section. We built this in 2 weeks. Using WebDev underscores, and we just modified WebDev underscores to have preset patterns, preset button styles, and we actually in this, I wasn't able to bring up the GitHub repository. I'll share that in the tweets. We also tied Tailwind. So everyone who isn't aware, the thing I love about WebDev underscores, which is WebDev Studio's versions of underscores, I think we call it Wonderscores on our side.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing I like, they have Tailwind, but also we wanted to take advantage of using Tailwind with theme.json on every single site, right? And so we could maintain a monolithic theme that then would be brought into other sites that we maintain. And then all they have to do is update their theme.json file. And so, in addition, my personal site as well is now built on the exact same framework, but this is Wonderscores, but it is with a different theme.json. That's it. And so
Wonderscores.
yeah, Wonderscores for the win. And so that's like a new thing we're working on, is getting theme.json connected with Tailwind. So, and don't get me wrong, we turn off that functionality for the client. We don't want them changing colors on the fly. But for us as an engineering team, then when the client's like, hey, we want like this seashell, we want this blue, we want our buttons this way, we just update the theme.json file, and Tailwind takes care of the rest. WordPress takes care of the rest. And yeah, it's been really great. And my brother even, funny story, the reason he ended up, and I actually didn't want to work with him. I love my brother, but I was like, oh, work with my family. Sometimes like, he's got my phone number, man. I'm scared, like it's, it can be scary. But he joined WordPress. My brother's a smart guy. He was at Google, Netflix, Atlassian, Dropbox, Stripe, and he's a nerd. He joined WordPress.com, tried to build a site, and had such a nightmare. And he said, dude, what's WordPress's problem? He goes, what's your guys' deal? Like, I can't get anything done. I feel like I can't build my site. And no offense to WordPress.com, he was very confused.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I set up a very, it still is WordPress, but we make the admin role developer, we make the editor role administrator, or manager, and then he doesn't even, and then he's like, well, wait a minute, when do I need the admin role? I'm like, to install plugins. He goes, and I should install plugins unless I vet them, right? And I'm like, yep, because he's a professional and this is a startup, right? And so it was a very cool way of doing sites, and we're doing a blog post about it. And he wants to do, like, we want to maybe do a live stream of it on his site, because he does live stream for his industry as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I put a link to the, if you're not familiar with it, WD_S is our fork, the Web Dev Studios fork of the underscores theme that was built and maintained by Automatic, which we forked it because we wanted to bring in some more future tech into it and some things that just weren't happening. And underscores. In fact, years ago, we were the ones that helped push to get SAS included in underscores because we were already using it. So if you go to WD_underscores.com, all spelled out, it's in the chat room. I will tweet it as well. It's a theme generator, so you can just punch in, name, description, whatever, and it'll spit out, a copy of WD underscores. And of course, it's available on GitHub too. And we're always looking for contributors. A lot of people contribute to it. It's obviously our kind of core framework, but a lot of agencies, people like Victor use it because it works really, really well. So,
and we're going to contribute again. We're going to make a PR request. We're gonna put those. So the work that you guys saw that we did on Collective WP for my brother, which by the way, no relation to WordPress, it's Collective Work and Place. I found out that WP is also an acronym in the office industry. Very confusing.
that's a tough one.
Yep. And so but yeah, and it's a niche industry. But those patterns, we are going to open source those back, PR it in. And again, if it's not a fit for WD underscores, we might maybe have those patterns be a kit or something else we put in another repo.
And that's the beautiful thing about open source in general, right? Like we're all doing really cool stuff, and by and large, a lot of us are sharing it publicly. I know not everyone's doing it. It's hard to know how much, but it's out there. Like we're building things, we're sharing them. We're sharing them between companies, between competitors, friends. It's one of the reasons I've always been drawn to WordPress is because there's something about the community and people that build on WordPress that want to help each other. And I know it's the open source side of it. It's not just WordPress. It's the open source mindset of, we can all help each other be better. And look at where we're at now versus 5 years or 10 or 15 years ago with WordPress, light years ahead, because of all of us that have been out there helping, push it forward and helping it grow.
I find it kind of funny. Sometimes we'll work with other agencies or we work with other developers. And, I had a $500,000 client in 2021. We did all this great work. And then, you make it look so easy. And then, they're like, okay, well, let's get a different agency. Brought in an agency. And when we did the handoff, and there are some engineers who get very frustrated. And I'm like, look, we're billing you hourly. So the handoff, we're not insulted. It happens. But I'm going to be honest, you could take 2 to 4 weeks. And the other agency, and they were not a WordPress agency. They were definitely like, some kind of enterprise, we do everything agency. And there was like the WordPress team. And when I met with them, they were so stunned how cordial I was being, how open I was being. And for them, we used Wonderscores as well. And they were and they were like, wow, how come this documentation doesn't exist? And I said, it does, but maybe we in the WordPress community don't do a good job of sharing it, getting it out there, etc. And yeah, that it was like for a very large data company. Obviously NDA stuff, so I can't say, but it was interesting because they, I thought these people would be like really smart with this stuff, and we kind of helped them make it easier to maintain by giving them all. I was like, hey, if you want to know this plugin, here's a link to this plugin forum, but also here is their blog. And here, oh, by the way, it's owned by this company. And so you should also subscribe to this newsletter. And so we empowered them to be ready to manage this very, like a $500,000 site. We had multi-lang, it had multiple APIs. It was like GDPR and CMP compliance for like 8 different regions. It was a very complex site. But, now it's still standing. I still see it on there and it's great, but it's all just with WordPress resources. They're not calling me.
Yeah. I mean, documentation is one of those things, right? It's it's so important, but it's like usually an afterthought, unfortunately. But that is why, especially like WordPress and stuff, they have whole teams dedicated to docs because of how important it is, right? Like I've always been a big proponent of it. Someone doesn't understand how to work with the technology, they're probably going to move on and find one that they can work with. It's honestly why some of these programming languages have died off over the years and other ones have taken over that maybe people didn't think were as PHP is a good example, right? People have been talking shit about PHP for decades. And here it is, like still dominating the internet. And it's like, look, you know why? Because it's easy to wrap your head around in terms of programming languages. It's not super complicated. It follows kind of the traditional coding standards and, what you would expect in a coding language. I came from a Microsoft background and I was doing all classic ASP and .NET. and I jumped into PHP, and away I went. Like, it was very easy for me to jump into PHP, from the ASP side. But again, it's all about documentation. It's all about ease of use, and it's getting people comfortable with how they're going to work with the tools. And if they're not, they'll probably move on to something else. Another reason why WordPress, just for a user, another reason why WordPress, just for a user stand.
All right, hold on a second. We lost Brad. I got disconnected for a second here. You're going back down. All right, I got disconnected. I'm going to assume I'm still on here. All right, hold on a second here. Multi-stream.